Oh, YouTube is a go. Hey, that took a little while for it to catch up. Is it really? Okay, good. Let me hit play on there so I can verify that. Hi everyone. Okay, I can't see a preview, but I'm gonna just go with that because I have confirmation from people over in Discord that we see something. Yes, so something terrible happened to my workshop computer, and I thought I had fixed it over the weekend, but the problem is back. So that one is not coming back today. So I have switched to my studio inside, and it sounds like we have sound. That's good. So let's get on with it. This is going to be a low production value show because I literally am just streaming this one camera. I have nothing else set up and I don't have any overlays or fancy things. So it unfortunately will be a little bit either brief or weird. So I prefer weird. So let's see if I can on the fly add some value to this. So I'm going to go ahead and add a media source and grab a video that I would have played anyway. So let's see. Here we go. This is going to be Ladyada talking about our product of the week. Here we go.
This breakout lets you plug in a Cherry MX compatible switch like you see here. This is a Kale box switch, which is Cherry MX compatible. You plug it in to the breakout board, and there's on the bottom, you can see on this photo, there's a socket. And so the switch doesn't get soldered in, it actually kind of press fit plugs in. There is also on the bottom, you see that white square thing that's a NeoPixel, and there's also a diode. And the diode is what lets you create key matrices with this thing. And the NeoPixel, you see here, there's this kind of like, there's the two sockets on the left, the center is the mounting post. On the right, there's actually a little slot in the keys. And the key itself is meant for like having an LED soldered in perhaps. But you can also just have a reverse mount NeoPixel shine through. And then you can kind of backlit the LED with RGB colors. So you've got a Cutie Pie board. It's just using Arduino, or you can use CircuitPython, whatever. And these are the keys. And I'm just going to remove them to show you that the key itself plugs into the socket. So this is the key, and it's got these two connectors, and when this key is pressed, those connect together. And then there's the mounting post, right, to keep it mechanically stable, so you can plug it in, and then it's pretty stable. I would say, look, you want to have it glued or taped or something to keep it from coming apart, because you can pull it off. And here's another one. So you have two of them connected together. And then on each side, you have multiple pinouts. There's power and ground here. These are for the NeoPixel. And then this white wire you see, goes in here and then chains over to this one. That's the NeoPixel data line. So just like NeoPixels, you chain them together. This has NeoPixel data going through. And then you have two pins for the switch, the top and the bottom, the anode and the cathode of the switch. Again, there's this diode in the middle, so you can make key matrices. If you're not doing key matrices, you can just ignore that diode. It's there to avoid key ghosting if you're making a complicated matrix. But basically, you have one pin for every switch. And then for this demo, when you press the key, the LED turns off. So you can just use it as a switch and then control the NeoPixel separately. So the NeoPixel is not connected to the switch at all. They're totally separate. You can have the NeoPixel on all the time, off all the time. You don't even have to power it if you don't want to. It's just kind of a bonus extra. It shines underneath. Here's a demo of the opposite. When you press the button, the NeoPixel shines through. So it's basically a breadboard-friendly way of connecting a mechanical key that is Cherry MX compatible to your breadboard.
There we go. Oh, sorry, that's peaking a little high. No, that looks good. So now I could pretend to run back to the workshop to go get one out of the mystery cabinet. So why not? Bear with me. I'm going to do just that. Let's go ahead and add a new media source. This is the weird bizarro version of JP's product pick of the week. All right. Hang on. Here we go. Yes, that's right. This week's product of the week is the NeoKey Socketed Breakout for mechanical key switches. And this is essentially a little PCB that has a NeoPixel that is underlit for a mechanical key switch, as well as a KL socket so that you can plug in a key switch without having to solder it, which is great if you want to try out different key switches. In fact, I've got one sitting right here that I have put together. Oh, yeah, focus is going to be a challenge. So here you can see I've got, first of all, keycap on top of my key switch. I've got a nice clicky key switch, and you can see that if I just gently pull those apart, the key switch comes out, and there's essentially little spring retention clips that hold those two legs in place, as well as the little post to keep things from wiggling around. And this is designed to go onto either perma-proto boards or breadboards when you're prototyping things. So I've gone ahead and soldered in these header pins, and you can see here a little demo that I've prepared where I've got a big honkin' breadboard, and I have a few key switches on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add, I've already pre-wired for this last one to go in. So what I'll do is try to not screw everything up horribly as I plug that in. Oh, I'm getting an echo. Sorry about that. Let me turn that down. There you go. Sorry about that. So if I plug this in, I shouldn't have done that while it was running, but I did, and I survived. So now, when I press that key switch, I'm changing this little animated pattern that's running through these. And I'm using the LED animation library for CircuitPython, which is perfect for this sort of thing. Because it's non-blocking, it allows me to go ahead and run animations while I'm still watching for key presses. There's a nice little comet chase. And go back to that initial sort of pulsing fade loop there. And so actually, I got a question in the chat, which is, what are your favorite key switches? So that's kind of a neat thing that you can use this for. If I go ahead and, I'll leave these covered, but what I have here is, this is a red key switch, which is the equivalent of a linear red Cherry MX key switch. This is a black key switch, which is a stiffer version of the same. It's just a linear press. This is a brown, much maligned, and this has a slight tactile bump in it, so you can feel a little change in force as you click it. And then finally we have a couple of very clicky ones, which are the equivalent roughly of a Cherry MX blue, I think. I'm not sure whether they're white. Maybe there's a Cherry MX white that I'm not aware of. So my favorite for typing is a blue. I like those on my kind of regular everyday keyboard. That's what I use, nice and clicky. But you can see here, one of the really cool things about this key switch is that by putting it on this little breakout that fits breadboard spacing, we can try out weird stuff like this kind of ergonomic keypad here. You might be designing a PCB for yourself, or maybe just a 3D printed case, or some other type of handmade case where you're just going to wire these directly to your microcontroller. In this case, I've got a little itsy bitsy M4 running this. Then you can create sort of unusual patterns, unlike the typical grid pattern. I don't have any of my other props with me here, but as you can imagine, here's my kind of everyday keyboard. That is a very specific pattern of staggered layout. There's also ortholinear, where they're more like a calculator keypads. But this allows you to get really wacky with designing some custom stuff, and it's really quick and easy to work with. You can also, by either soldering wires to the pinholes or using some little socketed cables, you can do very quick disconnects and add these into projects. So one thing I'll say is, if you want to head over to, let's see, can I get let me see if I can add a browser window. You know what, I'm not going to try, because then I'll surely suck us into a black hole. But if you head to the product page, and I'm just going to tell it to you, which is product 4978. So if you head to adafruit.it/4978, then you will go directly to the product page for these little NeoKey socket breakouts, and you will find that they are 50% off. So they are on sale for 88 cents. each, limit of 10. So if you have a project in mind where you want to do a little bit of experimentation with key switches, go for it. We also stock Cherry MX compatible Kale key switches. They are out of stock right now, I believe. Same with, we have some of these nice little key switches and see-through keycaps, which are great for seeing that little NeoPixel that's sitting right on there. So that is mounted underneath. The solder tabs are underneath, and there's a hole cut in the PCB so the light shines up and through. And that'll go through the hole on a regular LED key switch, or even better, use something that's white or translucent or transparent so that you get a lot of light shining through there, but it'll work going just up through that little hole that's in pretty much most key switches that expect an LED. And then you can use things like these clear key switches. Again, I've got all my props in the workshop, so I can't show you. Some other ones that have what's called a little window, which is what you find a lot of time on scroll lock and caps lock keys. And that also is like a little light pipe that allows that LED to shine through while the rest of it's opaque. So those are really nice. So let's see what else to say about it. I can't bring up my code for it, but the nice thing is this works like essentially two separate things. There's a string of NeoPixels, so you can follow the blue trace here. This blue wire runs to the in of this key switch, which is the NeoPixel in, and then it has an out pin on top, which runs into an in and an out and an in and an out. So that's what that kind of blue squiggly wire is. Then we have the power and ground for those NeoPixels. I've plugged them in across the top. And then down the bottom we have anode and cathode, which are how we're reading those switches on the pull-up of different pins. So I have 5 different pins that I'm using on the microcontroller to read those 5 switches. However, like Ladyada said, if you look closely at those, hide me, these cameras like to focus on faces. If you look closely, there is a diode on there. There's also, I think, a resistor in the NeoPixel circuit, but there's a diode on there for the switch circuit so that you can do things like creating column and row scan matrices if you want to use a lot of keys. So 101 or 104 key keyboard, that would be possible with these. If you had a really odd design, you want to get keys all over the place, you can do that. You don't need 104 I/O pins. You need to use the scanning column and row matrix. And I'm not sure what the limit is of those. I haven't tried it yet, but that'll be some number of pins are required per set of keys. So let's see, any questions in the chat? I'm going to pop over to the YouTube chat. Fishy Circuits asks, will the key switches come in sometime? I'm sure they will. I don't know when, but you want to go ahead and sign up. There's a little spot where you can type in your email address and say, notify me. We'll let you know when those come into stock. These are compatible with, let's see, do I have, I guess, oh yeah, so I've got some key switches. No, I don't have any. Yeah, these are compatible with pretty much any Cherry MX compatible key switch, and you'll find lots of different ones available online if you have some particular needs. And that's going to do it. So thank you all for stopping by. Sorry about the weird stream. We had a bit of a disaster with my my computer that I'm now going to go spend untold hours trying to fix, possibly swapping out a hard drive. Yay! So that's the product pick of the week. It is the NeoKey Socket Mechanical Key Switch Breakout. And I'm going to go inside and put it on my pegboard when I get back in there. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you next week.